let's go ahead and get started. I have 3 minutes after the hour here, East Coast time, so let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everyone to the Congenital Heart Surgery Database User Group call for today. Today is Tuesday, September the 7th. I hope everyone had a great weekend, was able to take a day off, relax if you were able. So again, hope everyone had a nice long weekend. Let's see, joining me on the call today from the STS side, we have myself, we have Carol Crone, we have Addie. I think that's it from the STS side. And we also have Chastity is joining us from the core group and our consultant. We also have Dr. Meyer representing from the surgeon leadership side from the IQVIA team. Let's see here, we have Melanie, Joe, Jean, Michelle. I think that's it from the IQVIA side. I don't think I forgot anyone. So thanks everybody for joining. Let's go ahead and jump into our agenda. Let's see. I don't have a lot of information to provide today. I just have a quick STS update, and we have an IQVIA update. And then once our IQVIA update, we'll turn things over to you all for your feedback. Of course, if you have anything, I just draw a complete blank. If you have anything for the IQVIA team to look into, please include your ticket number. If you'd like, you can go ahead and put that information into the Q&A so the IQVIA team can start researching. If you have a ticket number that you've already submitted and have a ticket number, you can put that in and they can start researching that and get an update for you on any of your tickets that have already been submitted. So let's go ahead and get started. For our STS updates, the September training manual is coming this week. Chastity was working over the weekend and did send me the updates over the weekend. So after this call, I will be finalizing the training manual, getting the bookmarks added, and sending that over to our marketing team for to get that posted on the website. So suspect the training manual will be posted this week, probably by tomorrow. I would give it about 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, depending upon what our marketing team has going on their side. So that training manual for September will be posted this week. Of course, the most important thing, one of the big things that everybody's wondering about, the 2020 harvest analysis update. Of course, that data is expected to be released this fall. So that data is coming. The dashboards, we are currently still undergoing UAT testing by the core group and data managers. We are looking to wrap that up this week. Once that UAT is complete, IQVIA will be working on the final updates to the risk-adjusted dashboards, and then once the dashboards are available within the IQVIA system, participants will be notified by STS when that data is available. Also, with the release of that data, IQVIA will be providing a review of the risk-adjusted dashboard. So that I'm thinking that was probably going to be within the first week of October. So that will be coming. Again, more information on that. It'll be held during one of our standard webinars. Again, IQVIA will be providing a review of that risk-adjusted dashboard when the data is released. So we'll be going over functionality, how to print, how to navigate within, all those things. So again, Mel and her team will be providing that update. For the 2021 harvest update, as you all are aware, the spring 2021 harvest close date is still to be determined. The task force did have a call last month. I told you guys I would provide an update for you post task force call. So again, the task force did meet to review the 2021 harvest close date. And again, we still have not determined a close date. The task force, the number one priority is allowing you all ample opportunity to review that 2020 data when it is released. So we do encourage you to please continue using open submission and cleaning and submitting your data. Again, once the harvest close date is determined, STS will give you a minimum of 2 weeks notice prior to the harvest close date. Obviously, we will give you all ample time to get that data reviewed, get your data cleaned up, get your data resubmitted. And again, right now, the spring 2021 harvest, that reporting period includes data up through 12/31/2020. With that, also on the task force, we had a discussion. The task force did want us to reach out and ask you all in preparation for the harvest close, where you were with your data submission and data cleanup. So with that, I do have a couple of polling questions that I wanted to ask the group. So let me go ahead and launch these polls. All right. Continue. So In preparing for harvest close, the task force did ask me to ask you all a couple of questions. Carol, can you all see the polling questions?
Yep, I can see them. I wonder if you have to I don't know if anybody else can see them. There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So, 2 questions. Is your data through 12/31/2020 clean and ready for harvest close? The first is, yes, my data is ready and good to go. I've already cleaned it and feel confident that it is ready to go. My data is good to go. I will probably review one more time prior to harvest close just to make sure it is clean. And then, nope, my data is not clean. Still have quite a bit of work to do to prepare for harvest close. So we have that question related to closing spring 2021 with the period ending 12/31/2020. And then we also have the same question for period ending 6/30/2021.
Yeah.
So we just want to get an idea of where you are on your data submission, where you are in your cleaning of the data, just to see where things are and how you're progressing. So the task force can have enough information to determine a harvest close date. It looks like people
on
are
top of
still
that, Leanne, as folks are still entering, we only have 51 of 91. So we should, if everybody could please answer, I think this is going to be very helpful in determining harvest close. And this is also, providing your input into these decisions that the STS surgeon leadership is going to make. I do want to talk a little bit about the last option, especially for data through 12/31/2020 and the sites that are answering, nope, my data is not clean. That last OR date was 9 months ago, almost 9 months ago. So we have open submission, and the ability to enter your data and get it cleaned up doesn't ever turn off. So you're always able to enter your data, get it cleaned up, and just be prepared. The reason why it's really important that if you're abstracting data and cleaning as you go is because when things like, I don't know, a national pandemic happen and you get pulled from entering your data into the warehouse to maybe help at bedside or some other role in the hospital, or if you have a system-wide shutdown because of a cyber attack or things like that, and you're not able, you have something outside of your control that's going to hinder you from cleaning up your data. It's very important that you take all of the opportunity you have to prepare for if those times happen. And it makes it very stressful on you and others at your site if you're scrambling last minute or something bad happens, something out of your control happens, and you didn't take advantage of all of the opportunity that's provided with open submission. So I know that, the transition to IQVIA hasn't been super smooth. We've had a lot of bumps in the road and those things, and so some folks have waited to even submit their data, waiting for all of the issues to be resolved. But at the end of the day, anything that is IT related, especially databases, they're always evolving and always improving, and there's always going to be something that's not perfect. So, and as we strive throughout this build to make sure that things are as good as possible, some ways that we only find out that there's errors is when people use it. So, it's really important that you get your data in as soon as possible, get it as cleaned as soon as possible, so that there's no extra stress on you or at your site when things don't always go the way that we expect them to go. So I just wanted to add that in.
Oh, no, that's perfect. I appreciate it. And I also wanted to touch on the question that Kelly had just submitted. She said, I thought STS had announced they were combining the 2021 spring and fall harvest to include data up through 6/30/2021. Yes, we are combining the harvest, but what we need to know, the task force wants to know how comfortable, when we're looking at the reporting period, does the task force choose to report on that for this 2021 harvest? Do they choose to report on data ending up through 12/31/2020, or do they choose to report data up through 6/30/2021? They want to judge where you are and see what your thoughts are and how you all are doing with your data submission and your data cleanup and your data submission efforts. So they're trying to get an idea of what reporting period do we follow? How are you with your data entry, your data submission, and your data cleanup? So that's the big question here is, yes, we're combining the spring and fall harvest. We only have enough time to have one harvest this year, but we need to figure out which reporting period we're going to use for this 2021 harvest. So next year in 2022, we have to get back on our spring and fall regular schedule. So again, the purpose of these questions is to help us figure out where you are with your data submission, your data cleanup, what reporting period are we going to use for this 2021 harvest. So it looks like, Carol, we got 69 out of 96 participants.
I'm going to end it and share the results out.
I agree.
Okay.
So did you share the results, Carol?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like for data up through 12/31/2020, it looks like 58% of you are, my data is good to go. I'll probably review one more time prior to harvest close. And then for our 6/30/2021, it looks like 70% are, nope, my data is not clean. I still have quite a bit of work to do to prepare it for a harvest close. Okay. So thank you for providing your feedback. We will share that with the surgeon leadership. So and again, we just do really encourage you all to continue to submit that data, get that data clean, and we will definitely share this information with the task force. So we really do appreciate you all providing your feedback.
I want to address a comment that Marina just put in, that some of us are working 60 plus hours a week, have multiple databases, and it's not always the same. Marina, I worked as a data abstractor for multiple databases, including STS, ACC, NCDR, and CMS core measures. I am aware of how strenuous it is, and I think I definitely appreciate all of the unique situations that happen at the hospital level. And I'm aware that I'm not aware of everything that's going on, but from my experience as being a data abstractor and sitting in your seat for quite a few years, and also working ICU nursing and doing both of those jobs at the same time, I could tell you that getting on a schedule and getting ahead of any type of situation like that might cause you to fall behind is probably the best thing you could do for work level stress. So I appreciate that. And I just want to let you know that I'm not just speaking those words out of not having personal experience with that. So thank you.
And before, I know Kelly has her hand raised, so I have a feeling it's in response to her question. So Kelly, I'm going to unmute you. I know I'm going to take your question before we get to the end, but I just wanted to address your question while we were on topic.
Hi, Leanne. On the slide, so my initial question was about the harvest and the data that was included in the harvest. On one of the slides, I thought it said December 2020, and I just wanted to clarify, I think one of the initial slides.
Right, so fall 2020, so spring 2021 harvest, the reporting period goes up through 12/31/2020. The fall 2021 harvest reporting period goes to data up through 6/30/2021. Is that what you were asking?
Well, I had thought we had received an email that said they were combining the harvest, the spring and the fall. So maybe I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, so we are combining. So there's going to be one harvest for 2021, same thing as we did in 2020. So in the 2020 harvest, we followed the fall reporting period for the 2020 harvest analyses that's getting ready to come out. So for this 2021 harvest, yes, we are combining the harvests again. We'll have one harvest, spring and fall. The task force wants to know, do we follow the fall reporting period for this 2021 harvest, or do we follow the spring reporting period for this 2021 harvest? Before they make that decision, they wanted us to reach out to you all to see where you were with your data cleanup and your efforts of data cleanup. So they just wanted to get your feedback on where you were with your data entry and your data cleanup prior to just making a decision without consulting you all to see where you were.
So I guess that's just to be determined then. It doesn't really, it could
Right.
include, okay, because I'm just looking at the last bullet point there and I just wanted clarification. Okay.
Yeah, I can make that clarification before I post these slides
And then
to the.
one more question regarding the survey. I'm just wondering how many people have IQVIA issues that are still lingering, and perhaps that's why their data are not cleaned. And it may just not be internally, there may be other factors. Thank you.
No, yeah, no problem. I'm sorry. I'm trying to, I have some things that disappeared on my end, but yes, that is an excellent point, Kelly. All right, so let's move on. So again, thank you everyone. Thank you, Kelly, for your questions. I appreciate that and your feedback as well. For our next slide, the data version 6.22 upgrade. Again, this is not new information to most of you, the same slide that was included on our last call. Again, the go live is planned for July 1, 2022. And again, we are incorporating that adults with congenital heart disease components. It includes patients 18 years of age and only 18 years of age and older only. Pardon me. And again, we'll be adding select variables from the adult cardiac database. Upgrade webinars with data manager education will be provided. We'll have weekly webinars that are scheduled to begin this winter. Again, we'll do a walkthrough of the new 6.22 data collection form. And again, all of these webinars will be recorded and posted out on the STS webinars page for you all to review if you are not able to make the call. And also we will be working on the new training manual. That's going to take quite a bit of long time, quite many hours to get this new training manual developed and ready for production. So if you do have any suggestions, please feel free to email those to me directly. I know I have gotten some feedback from several of you on formatting suggestions and for the new training manual. So I really do appreciate that. So again, if you have any comments or suggestions on how to improve the training manual, please feel free to email those to me directly, or you can email them to Chastity, our CHSD consultant as well. More information about the 6.22 upgrade will be provided at AQO. That will be a session that will be a topic that will be covered on our congenital session. Speaking of AQO, again, 2021 AQO, the data managers meeting is coming soon, October 12th through the 15th, with Friday, October the 15th being our congenital session. So again, all things AQO can be found out on our STS website. Go to sts.org and go to our data managers 2021 AQO page, and we can put the link to our AQO page in the chat box for you all. Again, if you have any questions regarding AQO content, please feel free to reach out to Emily Conrad. Emily can be reached at econrad@sts.org. If you have questions regarding registration or any issues getting registered, please reach out to Amy Kasich, and Amy can be reached at acachich@sts.org. And also, if you go out to our AQO page on the STS website, there is a link to contact Amy directly, as well as a link to contact Emily directly. Next, I'm going to turn things over to Joe for our IQVIA update. Joe.
Great, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me go ahead and get started. Just a couple items today for some known issues that are being worked on. These are items that will be updated and included in a future release, but we do not have a release date for these items just yet. Starting with STS 6892 in regard to the missing variable report, the APGAR known variable is incorrectly appearing on the MVR for cases where the demographics form version is prior to version 3.3 when that variable was added. STS 7282, we are looking into reports that the MVR is not correctly including records where the anesthesia adverse event variable is missing. So we will look into that and get that resolved for you. STS 7271, the COVID-19 variable, the temp code, we are looking to enhance the MVR so that that variable is displayed as missing when it isn't answered, and also the date field that relates to that. So those are not currently on the report, but we are looking to enhance it to get those added. A couple items also in regard to the primary procedure report, STS 7162. The primary procedure mismatch report exception rule 1 is not correctly being applied, and it's using the general rule instead. So VSD repairs are incorrectly displayed as the recommended primary when they should not be. So we are looking to get that updated so that it reflects the correct procedure. And then STS 7240, exception rules related to codes 1280 and 1660 are not being recognized in certain scenarios. And so we are looking to iron that one out as well. I think that's all the specific items I had today, just the usual reminders that if we didn't cover something today, just rest assured that we are looking into it. We'll follow up with you and we have more information. And then we will be reviewing additional items to bring to your attention for the next webinar session.
Great. Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate it. All right. So our final slides, again, you all are very familiar with these. IQVIA support plan. Again, just please be sure to include your participant ID in your communications with STS and IQVIA. List of resources that are available to you out on the STS website. Phone support for IQVIA, as well as, again, the STS tech support email address. We have our STS National Database feedback form, as well as a list of other resources that are out on the STS website. Please be sure to mark your calendars accordingly. Our upcoming congenital webinars. We do have our new data manager webinar that CHSD will be leading on September 14th at 11 a.m. Central. We have our next monthly webinar scheduled for September 23rd at 12 p.m. Central, and our next user group call is October 5th at 12 p.m. Central. So again, please be sure to mark your calendars. As always, STS will send an email reminder regarding the webinars coming the week of. So again, September 14th, September 23rd, and October the 5th. My contact information here, again, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to me directly. My email, as well as my phone, is listed here. For any database operational questions, please reach out to us at stsdb@sts.org. And again, if you need a list of your contacts for AQO registration, please reach out to us at the STSDB email. If you have questions regarding invoices, payments, participation agreements, again, STSDB. If you're not sure who to contact, just please reach out to me directly, and if I cannot answer your question, I will point you to the appropriate staff to get your question answered.
Hey,
yes.
Leanne, I just want to, I know we don't have a whole, this is Carol, we don't have many questions in the Q&A, but I did want to address something Kelly said about maybe folks having issues with the IQVIA platform, and that's the reason why they're not confident in their data, or their data is not cleaned up and good to go. Every week, STS, just for transparency's sake, every week STS has a call with IQVIA early on Friday mornings, and we go through the support from the week. The week before, we talk about issues on the databases, and we get an update from the IQVIA support team about a number of calls and number of open issues and the plan for those issues. And just about every week, I want to say, maybe adult cardiac, of course, has the most because it's the largest, but for congenital, I'm going to say that there's probably about maybe 4 or 5 calls or emails a week that are coming into support, which oftentimes those are quickly resolved. Sometimes there's open issues, and those things are under investigation. Right now, it looks like there's 2 open issues with IQVIA, STS 7126 and STS 7240, that IQVIA is working to resolve. Those issues are mainly logical issues in the background at IQVIA regarding the procedure mismatch report, and then exception rule not being identified, not recognized in identified scenarios. Those 2 issues are more, like I said, logical issues. They're not so much focused on the 2 main reports, right? Your data cleanup, which uses the missing variable report, and the harvest summary report, which shows you your critical errors, your warnings, and regular errors. So when I'm talking about making sure your data is cleaned up and good to go, I think what's important is that you're reviewing the missing variable report, you're checking out the harvest summary report, going through and making sure that you can get those things, get your basic data as cleaned up as possible. IQVIA is working on the logic for displaying that data back to you, but the two issues that IQVIA has ongoing right now, which you're aware of, don't really prohibit you from getting your data into the warehouse and cleaning it up. So it's really important that do your best to get the data in as soon as you can, get it cleaned up. So like I said earlier, when things happen, doesn't cause you extra stress and put strain on you for work balance. So that's where I think Kelly brought up a good point, and so I wanted to address it because I don't want it to seem that people aren't getting their data in because IQVIA is messed up. I don't think that's the issue. I think there's two known issues right now with IQVIA. We get minimal calls a week for IQVIA support, and IQVIA works really hard to make sure that the sites are acknowledged and the issues are resolved as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to add that in, and I hope it was somewhat helpful.
No, it wasn't helpful.
No,
Excuse me? Oh, I wasn't know who that was.
go ahead, Kelly. Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, we have a question from Janet, which I think this is a great question. I know, Carol, I think we had a call. I think you may have some more information, like the current plan for inclusion, exclusion for the COVID patients. I know that the surgeon leadership has, we did have a call last week, and the surgeon leadership is trying to determine how we are going to handle those COVID patients. Right now, they are excluded from analysis, so we are working on the inclusion and exclusion criteria for the COVID patients. Are we going to look at a specific time frame of positive patients? So that is in discussion. And I know as soon as we do have final information, we will be sharing that. Janet, I know you were looking for that in the analysis overview. When the analysis overview is finalized for this 2020 analyses, I will have a statement in there saying that currently the COVID patients are excluded from analysis. Once we have more specific information from the surgeon leaders, we will be, obviously, I will add that information into the overview, and we will share that with all of the data managers across all the databases on how those COVID data will be handled in analysis, once we get more specific exclusionary criteria, inclusion and exclusionary criteria set for those patients. Let's see, it looks like McCall is responding to one of Melanie's responses. Could STS also send an email to all data managers with the variables? I think that was in reference to which variables are not included in the MVR. I think, let me go back, sorry. It's probably not included in IQVIA MVR. So, yeah, we will work with IQVIA. We are working with IQVIA to get a list of, review the current list of variables that are included in the MVR. As you know, the COVID variables were not included. We are getting those included now. So as Melanie stated, we will review that current list of all of the variables that are currently included. And if there's anything missing, we can let data managers know which variables are currently not being included, which we have a plan. If there are variables that are not being included, what the plan is to get those variables included. One thing I also encourage data managers to do, I know a lot of your software has missing data reports, QC checks that you can run on within your software. If those COVID variables are not included in those data quality checks on your internal software, I would encourage you to reach out to your software vendor and get those added. So again, that's one step, another cleanup effort, cleanup thing you could do prior to get your data submission to ensure that that data is included. And again, if some of you, if your software, which I'm pretty sure, I'm sure it probably does, but also risk model variables, any variables that are important to you on your end, as well as the risk model variables, COVID variables, things like that. Work with your software vendor to make sure those variables are included in your internal data quality checks. So just would encourage you to do that as well. Let's see. Janet, why are the COVID positive patients being excluded? That was a decision that the STS surgeon leadership had made early on once the COVID, the pandemic came about. We weren't sure what impacts those COVID positive patients were going to have on analysis. So they were, STS leadership made the decision to exclude COVID positive patients from analysis. Now that we are getting more and more data and we are seeing, that we have more COVID positive patients, we're looking at discussing the time frame on COVID positive tests versus surgery date. So again, we are working on more specific inclusion and exclusionary criteria for those COVID patients. So again, that information will be shared with the data managers once surgeon leadership has a final decision on how the COVID positive patients will continue to be handled in analysis. Let's see, we have a new data manager starting soon. Who should I reach out to for support? My last data manager retired several months ago. So Mary, again, we have a new data manager webinar September 14th. If your new data manager has not come on board prior to that new data manager webinar, the session will be recorded, so you can share that new data manager webinar to your new staff member. You can reach out to me for more information. If you have specific information, again, please feel free to email me. Between myself, Chastity, we can help you with any providing assistance you may need with that new employee. So,
yes, Mary, this is Chastity. Just to tailor back to what Leanne said, absolutely happy to help support your new data manager. So send me an email or get me in touch with your new data manager, and I'd be happy to help.
That'd be great. Let's see. So, okay. Nicole, how to clarify which would be asking our vendor in regards to certain variables needed for this harvest. So there are specific risk model variables that are needed, to be completed, to be included in risk models, mortality variables. If you want to reach out to me directly, Nicole, I can, provide you with some assistance. All of that information, if you submitted data before, is included in your previous report overviews, report interpretation guides, all the risk model variables, what needs to be completed to be included in table 16 to get your star rating, your composite score. If you don't have access to one of those previous report overviews, just please feel free to reach out to me directly. Variables such as prematurity, all the specific risk model variables. There's too many to mention through here, but I'd be happy to assist you with getting that information, Nicole, to make sure that if you're working with your vendor to get them added to your internal data quality checks. So I'm happy to assist you with that. Let's see, Nancy, while we wait for our report, can we get length of stay reports in IQVIA? Not risk adjusted would be fine. And Melanie, do we have anything in there now regarding length of stay? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Length of stay in regards to range and mean, median type information. I don't know specifically what's being asked for.
Yeah.
Like that information I know is provided within the risk adjusted. The non-analyzed, I am not 100% sure in regards to if we have that specific information. I would have to take a look. But I'm assuming Nancy is not seeing it, so that's why she's asking. But we definitely will have that in the risk adjusted.
Yeah, that's definitely in the risk adjusted, but it's not currently in the non-analyzed dashboard. Let's see here. We've got a couple hands raised, so I want to address these. I don't see any more questions coming in. All right. McCall? Looks like you, yeah, I think okay.
Thanks for letting me talk. So I'm back to the MVR because I really trusted it, maybe too much. And then we were audited, and the two variables that I mentioned, the COVID and the adverse event, were not in the MVR and were in the audit, and we had some missing data there. So even if I think that my data is clean, I cannot clean all variables. And I think we do rely on the MVR. So you have to help us with that, I think. We have to trust some stuff and not dig in other routes, which I think also creates a lot of work for us when we prepare the data, unlike what we did previously with the previous platform. So if you can, guide us, give us some timeline when you think the MVR is going to be complete and reliable, so we don't have to go with other routes, some feedback. Because, if it wasn't for the audit, I would have not known that it's not included in the MVR.
Right. And I thank you for that feedback, McCall. I do appreciate that. I know you and I talked about this offline as well. So I do appreciate that. And we are, as Mel stated, we are working, we have a session to go through the MVR to make sure to go over everything again, what's currently being included, what's not being included. So once we have that list, we will share a list with you all of something that's not being included. But again, I still also encourage you, before you submit your data, to please, run your internal data quality checks as well before you submit the data. Obviously, the MVR was missing those COVID variables. Yeah, we see that, we recognize that, we're going to add it. We're not perfect, and I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying we're not perfect. You brought that to our attention. Thank you. We appreciate that, and we're working with IQVIA to get that corrected. Also, as I stated, we're going to have a working session to go through the MVR to make sure that everything that you all need for your data cleanup efforts in regards to risk model variables, mortality variables, the COVID variables are being added. So again, we appreciate you bringing that to attention, and we're going to address it. We'll have a working session to correct that. Once we have our working session, then we can discuss how long it's going to take IQVIA to get those new variables implemented. Unlike at DCRI, there is a process with acknowledging the issue, adding the known issue to the list, and then for IQVIA to turn around and get that information added. It's not as quick, and someone from IQVIA can explain their process for getting known issues implemented into the platform. It does take time. It's not as quick as it was at DCRI. So someone from IQVIA, if Mel from someone on your team wants to address, the process for getting the known issues logged into production.
Yep.
There's a process
Absolutely.
to it. So it takes a few weeks to get that input, that added.
Absolutely. And this is Melanie here. Hi, everyone. So once an issue comes in, so for example, the issue with the temp code. So as everyone knows, the temp code and the temp date were fields that were always available within the database, but they were on reserve and not actively collected. In this instance, STS had indicated that these fields needed to become available on the form. And with that, we then also needed to make sure that it's on the form, but in regards to the logic of updating on the MVR, that was not done. So that was reported late last week, and we are now looking to make sure that we are adding both the temp code and temp date. So with that analysis, we started to look through and determine, and I believe, McCall, you had indicated there was another related to anesthesia for the adverse event. We then took a further look and continuing to review the list. And then need to present that with the STS to then do that confirmation. So that's in progress. Once that's done, we then have to go through a process of testing. So the development needs to happen first. The logic needs to be created. It goes through a development phase. And then we move to the testing phase. And then from the testing phase, depending on that feature functionality, it may go to a UAT. The UAT, which is user acceptance testing, can be done internally by the STS team. Sometimes that's not opened up to the data manager, the larger group. And then with that, we then move into what we call the dry run phase, meaning that we basically do a practice run to make sure that when we deploy to the environment, nothing else breaks. And so everything is intact and no logic is stepping on any other logic. And then from there, we then have to move into production. So each phase has to go through a quality check. And so once it gets to production, we then work with another team to be able to move that code into production. So it does take a little bit longer. And not only are we fixing just one individual thing for one database, at times we're also looking at the other databases too. So there's multiple things happening at the same time. It's not isolated to just one database. A majority of the time, we're trying to make sure that we're moving through and we're able to address multiple items at the same time. So it does take some time, but with this review with the MBR, we again want to make sure that we're transparent and that we're sharing this information with you all so that you're aware of what's happening with if there's any additional identified items that you should be aware of. And then of course, share timing of when we're going to get that in. So as soon as we know, we'll make sure to share via through one of these forums or through, of course, the notifications, and then, of course, post to the library.
Thank you, Melanie. That's very helpful information. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Nancy has her hand raised. Nancy has a question. Regarding the length of stay, it's not in the unadjusted dashboard. I know you guys use that for US News. As I can see from the questions and comments. Melanie, can we add that to our next call for the length of stay and the non-risk adjusted for CHSD? Because I know it is provided in the risk adjusted dashboard that'll be coming out, but let's add that for our next call.
Okay.
Thank you, Carmen. Let's see here from Igor. Expired primary PDAs are still included in operative mortality under the IQVIA participant dashboard. This is the unadjusted, despite the fact that based on definition, they should be excluded. Is there any plan to work on this to show operative mortality in an appropriate way? So in the risk adjusted dashboard, those PDAs are excluded because that PDA exclusion happens on the analysis side. And when that data is coming in, and we can look at this, I don't know, did we discuss this, Mel, for the PDA exclusions and the non-adjusted dashboard? No. Okay.
We would need to add it.
Okay, yeah, so the PDA, so you're in the risk adjusted dashboard again, those PDA exclusions are taken into account when the data is in analysis and when that data comes back from DCR. So in this risk adjusted dashboard, you will have that operative mortality that does not include those PDAs. Let's see. So Janet, can they filter out the PDAs and neonatal pacers using a filter? So that's something that we'll add, Janet. That's a good suggestion. So we'll add that to our call for enhancement to the dashboard. Yeah, and Carmen said the same thing. The pacemaker for the neonates. So again, the operative mortality issues are critical for all teams. We appreciate the complexity of the issue. Again, we understand, and we can look at enhancing that operative mortality calculation for the way we look at that operative mortality and the non-adjusted dashboard. But again, that's something that we would have to work on with IQVIA in the logic. But again, those are taken into account in the risk adjusted analysis. And Kelly was saying the same thing. All right, Nancy still has her hand raised. Hold on. Nancy, I've unmuted you if you wanted to elaborate or ask a question.
Thank you. I think you answered it. I just really wanted to get, our report. So I'll be happy with the unadjusted report at this point, because we'd like to do a deep dive for US News and World Report, and we really can't do any of that because we haven't had a report since 2018.
Yep, and US News is aware of the reporting and how the reports are, the delays at STS. So again, US News is aware of the current reporting delays. All right, thank you, Nancy. I appreciate your feedback. All right. let's see, from another Nancy, could we have a tool for the risk-adjusted mortality similar to the ACSD tool? I'm not familiar with the ACSD tool. I don't know if Carol's still on or if she's available, or if Mel. Personally, I'm not familiar with the ACSD tool, so I would have to ask for clarification from someone more familiar with ACSD. Carol, are you there?
Yeah, it's me. It's Carol. I'm not sure if Nancy Clemens is referring to the risk model calculator.
Oh. Yeah. You don't have your, if you could raise your hand, Nancy Clemens. I don't see your hand. If you raise your hand, hold on, let me see if I can find
Oh,
her.
I found her. There you go.
Okay.
Hello.
Oh,
Echo. So if you're on your phone and your computer, if you could just mute one of those microphones, I think you would be fine. Oh, I think we may have lost her. I don't see her. All right. So Igor stated, still would be nice to have real-time picture, at least for operative mortality. Yes, sir, I understand, I hear you. And we have added that as a topic of conversation for our next touch base with you all, with IQVIA.
Hello.
You're welcome, Igor, not a problem. I appreciate your feedback. So Nancy's still having echoing issues. Are there any additional questions while Nancy is working on her mic? I don't see any. Okay, all right, Nancy, I'm unmuting you. Okay, try again, Nancy. Oh, I'm not hearing. All right, looks like, let's see, Kelly has her hand raised. While Nancy's working out her mic issues, Kelly, did you have a question?
I do. My donor procurements are still being reflected as index primary procedures on the congenital heart surgery database participant dashboard in IQVIA. And this has been a lingering issue that started with the first harvest.
And
Okay.
it's an item, I can actually address that one. It's an item that we do have on our list to address as an enhancement. All enhancements for the dashboard will be going in together. So that's a part of what's coming up. A part of the session that we will be doing, in addition to the risk adjusted review, will be the enhancement review that will apply to the non-analyzed dashboard, which would also include the COVID patient filtering, for example. So there's much more that will be coming in regards to enhancements to that dashboard. So we'll be sharing that in the next, I believe it's the monthly webinar, where we'll be doing the review for the risk adjusted report. We'll also be doing reviews for enhancements.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kelly. All right, Nancy Clemens, for
I think
Okay.
she's unmuted.
yeah, it's her.
Oh, can we try-
Yay.
is this it? Are we good?
Yes.
You're good.
Okay. First of all, it's Nancy Selmans, just so you know, CEO.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Everybody does that. I'm talking about the adult cardiac surgery database has the risk score calculator online. It's pretty simple, and it's just for cabbages and valves. The unfortunate thing with pediatric surgery and congenital heart surgery is there are so many variables. But if we could have maybe just the basic ones, that would help.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe this is Dr. Meyer. I can address that. I mean, the important difference is that in the adult database, they have separate risk models for each of the 7 or 8, major subsets of the operation. So there's a model for cabbage, there's a model for AVR, there's a model for MVR, there's a model for AVR plus cabbage, etc. Well, we don't have that level of granularity in the congenital database because
Right.
we don't have enough cases. You might have, several 100,000 cabbages from which you can derive a risk model. I don't
True.
think there's anything in the STS congenital database that's got anywhere close to that. I can tell you for a 4.5 year period, that we looked at, when we were refiguring or, looking at other techniques to analyze for risk, we had 100,000 cases, so it's just not, we don't have the denominator, as they say. And for that reason, anything, we've actually been working on trying to figure out a way that maybe we could have risk models just for the so-called benchmark operations. But even then, you have enough variation that, what do you include in a stage one? Do you include just hypoplastic left heart or other types of defects for which you might do a stage one operation like triatresia with transposition and arch obstruction? When you start peeling off the non-hypoplast diagnoses from the stage one operation, even that you start having trouble having enough, cases. And when you think about the overall mortality rate across the entire STS database is about 2.8% or so, congenital database, you have a signal problem. We don't have enough signal to really do this in a way that's comparable to the adult side.
And that is all totally true. I've just been doing congenital hearts for 2 years, so it's been traumatic, kind of, going from the adult world to the pediatric world. But thank you, because those are all good reminders of the reasons why we don't have it. And I was just listening to everybody today, and I hear their frustration, and thank you so much.
I think I'm going to call. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for that feedback. And thank you, Dr. Meyer, for providing more information on the difference in the risk modeling between the databases. I think I'm going to call on Chastity Wellness to address Carmen's question.
Yes. And I think that this, Carmen, you're speaking to other comments that others have said through this call as well. About the unadjusted data, or what we're calling the dashboard out there. I think that the premise of that dashboard is that it's non-analyzed data. It's really a descriptive review of your data. And so, yes, it gives you kind of an overview, and anybody who's dead is dead. Anybody who's alive is alive. Length of stay is what it is. Whatever is reported there is really just descriptive. The analytic rules that get applied to exclude a PDA, let's say, from the mortality analysis, or exclude a pacemaker procedure, let's say, based on you being a neonate, will not be applied in that dashboard. The unadjusted dashboard is simply just that. It is a snapshot of the data that you have uploaded. I think it really is useful for making sure that you think your data has been uploaded correctly, and that you can see anybody there that has a mortality, whether or not it will count against you as a programmatic mortality, and your risk-adjusted dashboard report will be, risk-adjusted report will be different. And so I think we just have to understand what the dashboard is and isn't. And I think that people want to use the dashboard for US News reporting or for other things. And I mean, I do too. I completely understood that we want some reporting, but that dashboard isn't going to give us that level of reporting. That's what the risk adjusted report that we're waiting for is going to address. So does that help a little bit with understanding the dashboard versus the risk adjusted report that we're waiting for?
and Igor just made a comment. He said, in this case, it should not be named operative mortality. It should be just mortality.
Well, point taken.
Yep. Yeah, I understand. Agree. So thank you for that feedback, Igor. And thank you for that, Chastity, that helps. Yeah, and too, like in the DQRs, I know at DCRI, when we would report mortalities, those PDAs and things like that were still included in the DCRI counts, because again, we just continue to clarify that those exclusions occurred on the analysis side. And like you stated, that unadjusted dashboard is just that. It's, it's raw data coming in straight from your software vendor within to IQVIA, and there's no analysis or no inclusion specific for that being included at that within that dashboard. Okay, let's see here. One more. So we have one more question, Nancy. How difficult would it be to upload unadjusted report? How difficult would it be to upload, I think, unadjusted report? Can we get this by the end of the week? We have hospital quality meetings and they would like to see outcomes. I can tell you that there is no way we could get, if you're referring to that length of stay information and things that we have been talking about enhancement wise, there's no way we could get that into the report, into the dashboard by the end of this week. Not possible. I wish, but there's other, oh, sorry, my dog is dreaming and barking in the background, so I apologize. But that's something that we could not work into our timeline for this week. So Melanie, you should be able to pull length of stay from your vendor. So yes, and I think another had commented about that too. You could get your length of stay information from your vendor software. Let's see, it is now 2 o'clock. We're on the hour. I don't see any additional questions coming in. Thank you everyone for joining today. We really do appreciate all the feedback that you've provided, and we will, like we stated within this call, take your concerns and the enhancement requests and everything to IQVIA. We meet every day of the week. So we will bring this information back and have discussions on how and when we can get this information added into the dashboard and into the reporting. So we appreciate it. Thank you all, everyone, for joining today. I appreciate everyone from the STS side and the IQVIA side. With that, I hope you guys all have a great rest of the week. And of course, here's my contact information. If anyone would like to reach out and discuss, my email is here, my phone is here. It is best to reach me on email first. So again, just reach out to me. If you have database operational questions regarding for AQO, getting registration for your list of contacts, please reach out to us at ststb@sts.org. I thank you guys, everyone. I thank you guys for joining, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of the week. And we'll see you next. Our next webinar is our new data manager on September 14th, and our next monthly webinar is September 23rd. So we'll chat with you all then. I hope you have a great week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good job. Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks, guys.